Is it possible that ancestors can have a negative impact on us in our daily life or our spiritual practices? Well, Draiocht Foundations. Hi, hello, and welcome. John O'Sullivan, Irish Pagan School here. And that is the question or quest we have from Jessica, who was in contact with us. So Jessica has been going through the Draiocht Foundations class, which is a foundations in kind of Irish magic aspects and energy work taught by Laura O'Brien over at the Irish Pagan School. And Laura during the class mentions that it's possible to come under attack or to have negative energetic circumstances directly or targeted towards you. So what Jessica's been going through and kind of considering, is it possible that working with our ancestors or working through our ancestry to have difficulty that our ancestors may be pissed off at us in some way, shape, or form, or maybe carrying some form of negativity, and then that leads to some form of energetic attack or difficulty? And so it's a really good question. It's a really good cast. And I thought I'd do my best to provide some form of insight or perspective on it, if not an answer. Um, so when we talk about ancestry, the first thing is really to acknowledge that ancestry isn't just blood. Okay, it's not about, your direct genetic DNA pathway. Yes, it includes that, but it's not just that, because there is also cultural ancestry, community ancestry. There's like, it doesn't have to be related to you for it to have an impact on you. Um, Going back to the ancient Irish practices, people were raised or people grew up in a tua, which was the Irish word for tribe. And the tribe would be multiple families, anywhere between 1,500 to 3,000 people in a 25-kilometer area. And not all of them are related by blood, but everyone looks after each other within that community. And so you might not have your direct elder or a direct kind of parent or grandparent, but you would still have elders within your community, and they would be and could be construed as ancestors. Now, as we kind of come down, to more modern times, people growing up in certain communities, especially in Ireland, Ireland is still very tribal in its own ways. All you have to do is look at our sports, the Gaelic Athletics Association or the GAA, for the Gaelic football or the hurling. And yeah, the tribal rivalries are all still actually there. But so ancestry can exist within your community, within your kind of collective, within your tribe circumstances, and even within the landscape that you're living on. If you are not originally from, or your ancestors are not originally from that landscape, doesn't mean that there weren't ancestors on that landscape or elders within that territory that could come up as some form of connection, because you are now the person living in that territory, living in that area. And so it's worth acknowledging that there are those aspects to ancestry as well. Now, it's not about claiming ancestry based on where you are now, but it's being aware that there could be an impact, or there could be an awareness for those who have gone before, which is another definition of ancestry. Now, when it comes down to Draiocht, which is an Irish word for kind of magic and magic practice, which is what Laura teaches, um, there's a lot of kind of, I keep saying filler words, and I'm very conscious of that, but I'm trying to speak without giving too much definitions, but also give you confirmations and kind of clarity. Because it is about energy work. It is about energy manipulation, but energy work and manipulation is only ever done in line with intent. And that is what makes it a magical practice, a magical act. And as we approach that kind of concept in line with ancestry, it is possible to engage energetically or with intent towards one's ancestor, be they bloodline or other. And that means that we're opening up ourselves, we're opening up our awareness or our perspectives, we're choosing to try and chase or engage with that aspect of what has gone before. And that does mean that, yes, we can be prone to negative impacts because of that. We have had people come to us and seeking support about, you know, particular practices, how they can kind of close down after they've had a negative experience, or they might just need guidance in how to work through it. And that is a bigger part of the whole process as well when dealing with ancestry, because there are students of ours in the United States, for example, and because of their mixed lineage, they happen to be descended from both people who were colonized and also the colonizers. And so when you begin to work up your family tree, when you begin to explore that ancestry, when you begin to kind of connect yourself energetically and intentionally with your past or with the past or with what and whoever has gone before, which has led to where you are, it can be very uncomfortable, it can be very difficult, it can be very challenging. And there may be ancestors in your kind of past, or there may be people who have gone before in your genetic past or cultural past or locality past who have their own difficulty, who have had their own damages, and who may not be able to communicate very effectively, who may have their own trauma and may not be able to kind of experience or interact with your focus or your intentional or your energy work towards them in that direction. And so, what we would always say in all practices, if you define them as magical or not, your first duty of care is to yourself. Your first duty of care has to be how do you approach it from a place of security and comfort within yourself? What kind of practices do you need to work on for your self-care, for your self-awareness and self-preservation? And that can be anything from I only explore this in a certain location within my home or a certain location outside my home. I go to that place to engage in that energetic practice. Or it might be I use a particular tool, a particular kind of drumming sound, or a particular kind of artifice, something that engages your mindset or engages your perspective towards ancestry or towards that kind of work. That means when you integrate yourself with the use of that tool, you're opening and focusing your intention towards that practice. But then also, when you are done with that tool, you put it back in a fucking box and you close yourself off from that practice, which means that you have both an opening approach to it, but then also a closing and finishing, which is crucially important for any kind of practice involved, magical or meditation or any other way. It is about making sure that the closing and finishing off of your rituals is practiced no matter what happens. And I have unfortunately been in spaces where people have not had a proper closing to a ritual, not had a proper kind of closing off to a practice of meditation or guided journeying or some form of magical act or intentionality where the people, be it through inexperience or malintent, really, they just say, okay, bring people in, raise all of the energy, and then just let them go without actually putting it to purpose of putting it to close. Um, I have stood outside of circles where people have been harmed by that. I've had people kind of come to me after the fact and say, listen, oh yeah, no, we're doing really, really great work. We're meeting every month on the full moon. We're raising a whole lot of energy. There's a whole kind of group of us, and we're directing the energy towards this one person who is kind of channeling all of it. And then I asked a question which was trickling at the back of my mind. It's like, okay, well, what's that one person doing with the energy? And this individual couldn't answer. And I was like, but no, where is the energy going? What are they doing with all of your energy that you're pouring into them in these ritual moments, with all of this magic that you are kind of generating and targeting towards them? You trust them to do stuff, but surely what are they doing with it? Where is it going? How are they using your energy that you're giving into the ritual? And they couldn't answer that. It turns out, they did eventually begin to kind of have a conversation around it with this individual, and it all fell apart from there because the individual was manipulating the entire group or collective for their own personal benefit as opposed to some group kind of cause or intent. So I'm kind of getting off topic, but that really does show that you have to be comfortable with putting the extra effort in after the energetic shift of the moment. As much as you might, begin with drumming, begin with chanting, begin with kind of ritual practice, begin with stepping into circle, calling quarters, whatever it is you're actually doing. And as much as the heavy kind of push of energy within the moment is used or raised or whatever is done with it, there needs to be as much effort put in. And now we finish off, and now we close out, and now we put the tools away, because that is how we secure ourselves against exterior kind of, be it malintent or be it like, just unfortunate circumstance. That's how we kind of allow for the reintegration of ego within ourselves to keep ourselves safe. Now, with ancestry, especially blood ancestry, it can be very difficult because they are us. in a way. The genetic flow of me can be traced back to these individuals. The same kind of blood that pumps through me genetically pumped through them too. Similar experiences to me, like in where I grew up, be it close proximity ancestors, like again, parents, grandparents, great grandparents, all of those kind of things that, can have a cultural influence and cultural impact, which means that we're less likely or to be aware of a need to block or to cut off or to close out of our interactions. And it's important to build that intentionality. And that's all of this Draiocht Foundations class is a really, really great way to get into it. And I can't teach you the entire class here talking about it, but it is about that intention. And the definition that we use is this kind of shift or manipulation or use of energy in line with one's intention. And it is that intention that allows for us to keep ourselves safe, to kind of define what happens, when it happens, how it happens, but then, and now it stops happening. So yeah, ancestry can be a difficult one in that. Also community, if you're working with other people or individuals, you need to be conscious of how and where you're giving your energy and what kind of openings you are leaving for other people around you to interact or to engage with your energy. I've had people who have communicated with me like so drained, so tired, so sick, and I'm like, okay, what did you do? Where were you? Oh yeah, we went to a ritual the other night and whatever else, and it was really, really great. It was really fantastic. And it's like, okay, well, was there anyone new there? Was there anyone different there? Oh yeah, there was this other individual, and they just seem so. And I was like, yeah, you've interacted with someone who's just actually taking off your energy because it was never closed properly. The ritual was never ended properly. And so I then have to help them go through some kind of process of, again, reintegrating ego, being aware of who they are and how they are, and, cutting cords, you know, ending off of a practice. And it's not about denying or like, rejecting or negativity. It is about self-preservation at the end of the day. And being aware of the physical effort we put in our life, being aware of the emotional effort and the intellectual effort we put into our life and those around us. We need to apply the same kind of discerning reasoning to our spiritual or energetic efforts that we put in to those in and around our lives as well. So, Jessica, thank you very much for the fascinating question. So, yes, it is possible to have negative impacts in regards to ancestry. Again, the further back the ancestry is, the less likely you're going to have like directed energetic kind of circumstances, but it may be trauma-based circumstance. It might be kind of difficulty based on what they experienced in their life. So it wouldn't be that their ghost is coming after you in any way, shape, or form. It might be more that you are open to what they experienced in their timeline and being able to close that down and kind of reintegrate your moment to the now, not what has gone before or who has gone before, will be a way to kind of end or sever those kind of experiences as you're happening to have them. So thank you very much, Rakesh. I really appreciate the question. I hope I have done some service in answering that question. Um, Again, Draiocht Foundations, and there is a follow-up class there as well in the Irish Pagan School. Laura is an expert in so many of these practices and is the person I go to for all of the work I engage with as well. So do pick up Laura's class if you're interested in going deeper, learning some foundations of practices, energy work and magic, but then also there is a further follow-on course if you need a bit more advanced kind of processes or awarenesses. If you can't take the class, then pick up something free. Go to irishpagan.school/free, and you can get a year's worth of teaching there on Irish culture, mythology, history, and so much more from us at the Irish Pagan School. And so if you have enjoyed this, hit a like, do the subscribe thing. If you think someone else could benefit from something I've said, share it with them, let them know, bring them over, invite them to the conversation. And until next time, look after yourself and take care. Slán. Goodbye.